It is my joy to celebrate with South Road Full Gospel Assembly our 50th anniversary and to send well wishes to the church for increasing growth and impact as you follow the Lord's uh, faithful in pursuit of the harvest globally and locally, and in pursuit of the purification of the bride of Christ. South Road has been associated with practically every aspect of my spiritual growth. It is where I've seen and learned to emulate spiritual pioneers, people who have inspired me with their level of worship, consecration, and sacrifice, leaders whose faithfulness I resolve to emulate. It was in South Road that I received an impartation of character which I didn't even realize was theologically possible. I became an elder in training under Brother Ken with Paul, Dina, Andrew, and Norman. Brother Mac at the time was a full elder and a fivefold teacher on top. South Road was where I was baptized in the Spirit, responded countless times to the call of God, witnessed the resurrection of baby Miracle, had a direct discipleship lesson from the chief shepherd, witnessed a young people's revival, witnessed a whole church refreshing revival, had the impartation for discipleship from Ray Siervo that still shapes my ministry today, labored in worship and in the zones, saw answers to prayer that still shake me to the core, and received the pastoral warning from Brother Marbeer that kept me on track throughout my university life. Before South Road was a church, it was the Full Gospel Fellowship Office and Mission Home. And my earliest memories of South Road was of a missional community where incredible fivefold ministers like Louis Jones and Lenny Joseph would gather under the mango tree and gaff at the Albert Street entrance to this incredible multiracial throwback to one of those early church, one new man communities. The church's racial composition would have spoken as loudly as its radical doctrine. Basically, nothing that happened in the early church was off limits to the South Road hopefuls. Not only was it possible that, but we actually expected it to occur in our services. You know, Guyana at the time was a nation struggling to shake off the trauma of the 1963 riots and was desperately trying to establish a united identity, one people, one nation, one destiny. South Road and later Haruni would be this silent, but in my opinion, the greatest counterstatement to the political messiahs who were promising to lead Guyana into the promised land of racial harmony. Now, here was South Road, under the leadership of Messiah Jesus and his representatives, actually providing what the political messiahs were promising. I can tell many inspiring stories of healings, youth awakenings, and encounters, and great services together with incredible fellowship with like-minded fellow members of South Road. This I would describe as South Road from the inside, but none of these reflections were as significant as the perspective I gained when I was outside. The memories I recall of the early morning devotions in Full Gospel Fellowship camps before South Road was designated to be a church with a membership. And then what I became aware of while I was in the UK in two stretches of time. Before South Road was established as a church back in 1972, I didn't even know at the time that Walker Ramphal would later have a Full Gospel Fellowship connection. But I remember him as an early encourager of my love for prayer when I was just 14 years old. Now, fast forward to 1974, and coming from a close brethren background myself, I was somewhat skeptical about institutional church, but was encouraged by Ellen Jordan to give it a try, because what was happening at South Road was not normal institutional church. In fact, this was more fellowship than church. And at South Road, they were exploring early Christian themes like baptism of the Spirit, gifts of the Spirit, and such like at conventions like the one at Cambridge Academy, and later in Friday night prayer meetings. Then, of course, later on, this continued in Sunday morning and in fact Sunday afternoon meetings. The adventure continued. Long meetings with incredible worship and amazing teaching. The evangelical stroke ISCF crowd used to go to their church, wherever that was, leave quickly and hurry over to South Road because something was happening there that reminded them of the scriptures. So in 1975, Philip Mojave was already recognized as a leader in the body of Christ in Guyana, and was threatening to orchestrate a unity in the body, at least in the city, which as far as I understood, the denominational structures found quite threatening. The denominational heads that I saw who appeared within the full gospel meetings soon seemed to step back from this gathering ecclesia that was breaking out under Philip Mojave's leadership of the Guyana Evangelical Fellowship. They stepped back partly to a safer place. So by the time Philip Mojave arrived in England in 1983, he discovered a restoration movement that had fragmented along the lines of fellowship versus church. And instinctively, he launched into mission mode, the same kind of mission mode that was typical of original early South Road. Becoming deputy director of the UK Evangelical Alliance, mentoring some of UK's national Christian leaders, and picking up 7 churches that were dropped into his lap by Dave Tomlinson, establishing a mission home stroke office at Acre Lane, and proceeding to try to gather the now global family back to its foundations. Meanwhile, I've been on a journey of discovery of Full Gospel's English roots, the influence of the former members of the Brethren Church, such as Bryn Jones, Arthur Wallace, and Watchman Nee, on Brother Marbeer, was no secret. A short history of the Brethren Church would later cause me to discover the Brethren Church's roots in Anglicanism. So my own journey into Anglican renewal, and then into the beating center of the Restoration movement at Southampton, where Arthur Wallace ended his life of ministry. This gave me a unique view of South Road's roots and influencers. The drift away from missionary foundations towards conventional church structures became more and more evident on both sides of the Atlantic. And both the British Apostolic Churches and South Road have struggled to recapture their sort of their radical missionary roots. South Road indeed was a radical idea, proposed by a radical set of pioneers as a light to the city and a model to the nation. South Road was pioneered by young men, and I believe that pioneering radical spirit that created South Road is in fact indomitable, which means that it is still alive. And I do not believe that 50 years of history has dulled the church's call to be a catalyst for New Testament City Church experience and impact in Guyana. The source of this radicalism was discovered in my second stint in the UK when, together with Sister Eleanor Jordan, I discovered a message on the grounds of Rhys Howell's Bible College of Wales, a message about faith that I recognize as the defining statement of Haruni and the Full Gospel Fellowship. Rhys Howell's son, Samuel, was a mentor to both Arthur Wallace and Bryn Jones, who in turn were mentors to Philip Mojave. intercession, and radical mission that flows out from that is, in my opinion, the genesis of South Road. And I'm still dreaming and believing that this twin foundation will shape its future.